What is up, everyone? This is the Casual Wrestling Community Channel, where each and every week I dissect the worst takes from the disgusting and annoying IWC, otherwise known as the internet's know-it-all wrestling community. I am the notorious Dirty D, the voice of the casual wrestling community, and this is the place for those of us who are tired of watching wrestling by ourselves and just want to find normal and awesome friends to watch wrestling with on a weekly basis. If you're looking for some casual but knowledgeable wrestling homies, make sure to join the Casual Wrestling Discord and introduce yourself to the crew, where you will meet other amazing casual fans like our newest members, Dubtastic 52, Highway Warrior 91, and Tyler 5976, as well as all the regulars who are there all the time holding it down. Thank you guys for joining the community. I look forward to many great conversations with you guys, but for now, this is the Casual Wrestling Community Channel, and this is the IWC Meltdown Show. So much to talk about this week as we inch closer and closer to WrestleMania, because that's where we're headed, right? We're headed straight towards WrestleMania. Does it feel like we're headed towards WrestleMania? This last week felt a little bit off to me. Like, we've had 4 major title changes in the last 2 weeks. Is that a sign of misdirection? Is that a sign of indecision? Something doesn't feel right. Now, I'm not ready to say the ship is sinking, but it's starting to feel like this master plan that I was told Triple H has isn't such a master plan. We're 30 days out from WrestleMania, and we know absolutely nothing about the mid-card. We have zero idea of what night what matches are going to be taking place on. We don't know if you want to go see Seth Rollins, you assume it's night 1, but we have no confirmation on what WrestleMania will look like in totality. There's a few things we do know, though. You know what we do know? We do know that if you want to go to the WWE Hall of Fame ceremony, you're going to need about $700. Unless you want to leave with a nosebleed, it's going to cost you about $700 to rub elbows with the legit wrestling crowd. To me, that is absolutely insane. What are we doing? WWE, someone has to ask this question, and I'll be the guy to ask this question. Are you pricing out your real fans? Has somebody talked to Adam Silver? Has somebody talked to the NBA and asked them for the blueprint on how to price real fans out of attending your live events? Let's look at the breakdown of what it really costs this year. If you really want to go have the WrestleMania experience, you're talking about $700 for the Hall of Fame, okay? Another $750 if you want to go to WrestleMania. Let's tack on another $300 if you want to go to Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. It costs like $55 if you just want to get in the door of the fan access experience, whatever they're calling it, fanatics, whatever it is. And then it's another $100 if you want a photo op on top of that. You are going to have to take out a loan to experience WrestleMania weekend, and this shit is getting ridiculous. And on top of all of that, on top of the ridiculous price tag that's now part of WrestleMania, we are looking at maybe one of the oddest builds I've ever seen as we enter under the 30-day mark towards Las Vegas. We literally, like I said, we have no clue about 90% of the card. We could speculate, but we really only know the 5 big matches that we're getting. We know we're getting Gunther. We know we're getting, Gunther and Jey Uso. We know we're getting Cody and Cena. We know we're getting Rio, Io. We know we're getting Rhea, Io, and Bianca. We're getting Tiffy and Charlotte, and we're getting the big triple threat with CM Punk, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns. Outside of that, we really know nothing. It really still feels like on a week-to-week basis, Monday Night Raw is just rolling with the punches of normal storytelling. By now, normally we've hit that WrestleMania excitement where we start to know what Chad Gable's doing or what Dakota Kai's doing. We start to know where these pieces fit into the puzzle. And right now, we really have zero clue about the mid-card. I mean, there's no mid-card clarity. There's really no tag team clarity with the tag team titles changing places a week ago. Like, the big block on the card, the bulk, what I just went over, looks amazing, right? And to average casual wrestling fans, that's going to be enough to move the needle. Triple H knows that, and he's going to get by on that. But the reality is that second level of wrestling fan that has a curiosity for things in the lower divisions, this is kind of a wild time for those fans. Like, imagine trying to decide right now what night you want to go to WrestleMania. Imagine having a kid and they have a favorite wrestler and you're about to drop $700 to go to WrestleMania with your kid and you don't know. It's a crapshoot on what night your favorite wrestler may be wrestling on that card. These are wild times when it comes to WWE and the way they're booking. And at this point, I'm convinced Triple H booked this European tour because he knew the crowd reactions, because he knew the conversations would start, because he knew this was a means to stall out anybody who's actually paying attention down past these top 5 matches. Like, Raw was interesting to say the least this week. To main event a Monday Night Raw about 30 days out from WrestleMania with Finn Balor and Braun Breaker, that's absolutely insane. Like, you've got to be building towards something bigger outside. I get we had the John Cena moment at the beginning of the card. That's fine. But to end the night with Finn Balor and Braun Breaker, which is not taking anything away from these guys, but we're 30 days away from WrestleMania, and we're not even sure if this match has anything to do with what we're going to see in Las Vegas. Now, I'll admit, the 3 p.m. thing didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. I just waited and watched it like it was a normal time. I had to, block off Twitter, block off Instagram, block off Facebook. Couldn't do any of those things. So I had to go kind of on a total wrestling blackout. But, it didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. Once again, I don't love this oversimplification and this over outpouring of admiration for these European crowds. I'm still split on these overseas crowds. On one hand, they do a good job of cheering. They do a good job of identifying who's the good guy and who's the bad guy, and they draw kind of defined lines, and they do a good job of making the show feel exciting. But I still feel like as you get later into the night, all of the singing, all of the chanting, it distracts from the actual match at play. When they start singing these songs, they start doing a 1, 2, Sakla Blue, and they have a count for every time there's a near fall. I get the novelty of it, but it does wear thin on me. I get it. You guys can count. That's awesome. But I love that they love wrestling this much. It's not for me. It feels like smoke and mirrors right now as we turn the corner in these last 30 days. It feels like Triple H is really trying to kind of compensate maybe for lack of ideas as we get down the card. But let's get into what we came for here tonight. Let's do what we came to do, and that is to break down the IWC meltdowns from this week. So meltdown number 1 is a last-minute addition. This was not on my original show card, but everybody's talking about it. Everybody's kind of throwing in their 2 cents, and I saw some of these just wild tweets about this, so I thought, let me pull one out of the wild. Let me pull one out that came across my feed, and let's talk about this situation. If you don't want to talk about this here's Meltdown number 1 from the IWC, and it says, Jon Moxley is the GOAT, okay? The spot on Dynamite will have everybody talking and will have all eyes on AEW. Who cares about John Cena when Mox is literally putting his blood, sweat, and tears into pro wrestling? If you hate this, you hate real wrestling. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat this shit. This may be the point in time where I piss off any of my listeners who are fringe listeners who have an affinity for AEW. But here is my honest to God reaction to what happened on Dynamite this week. And that is, if you are the kind of person who enjoys seeing a man having nails impaled into his back, we can't be friends. You're a weird fuck. That's not wrestling. That's a kink. That's a mutilation fetish, which is cool. Just admit you have that fetish and we can move on. Just admit you like weird shit and we don't have to be friends anymore. I'm not going to argue the safety issue of this spot because that's the conversation that the IWC wants to focus on. They want to point us in that direction because they want to bait us into a conversation where they go, it wasn't as bad as it looked. Sure, whatever. Not going to have that conversation. They want the casual audience to overreact and go, he could have died. He could have been paralyzed. I'm not a fucking doctor, so I don't know the risk. I do know there were nails stuck in this dude's back, right? I don't know where these nails came from. I don't know how dirty they are. I don't know what disease-infested closet they got them from. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to analyze the safety part of this. I'm going to analyze the optical part of this. And what I know is this is desperation. This is wrestling OnlyFans. For all of you guys who sit out there and talk shit about OnlyFans, this is wrestling OnlyFans. This is the mark of an untalented wrestling company wanting attention. This is the equivalent of somebody slitting their wrist for attention. That's what this is, a look at me moment in professional wrestling that did not require talent. This right here, this is a moment in time. Mark this on calendars. This will be the clear division of AEW and WWE fans that has been a long time in the making. If you want to define the lines between a casual wrestling fan and a member, a card-carrying member of the IWC, look at this moment in time when a desperate company and a desperate man needed to appease a desperate IWC fan base. Which side of the line did you stand on? Did you stand on the side of the line that goes, I don't need to watch that? Or do you stand on the side of the line that defends this just idiocracy? Because look, from an optics standpoint, this was a horrible business decision. This will end up costing AEW more fans than it will gain them. This will only strengthen the conversation that AEW fans are weirdos. This will only strengthen that weirdo fan base that AEW has, and it will cause them to double down on their tribalism. It will cause them to alienate anybody who maybe didn't like the spot but still an AEW fan. This is going to be a dividing line, and this is horrible if you are AEW and you are in the business of trying to grow a wrestling company. Because I've seen a couple IWC members say that their argument is, well, we don't care because AEW isn't trying to grow their fan base. We're happy with the fan base that we have. I mean, holy shit. Thank God I would never hire you to run one of my companies. Like, you have to understand, nobody at WB has this attitude. They're not in the business of sustaining a small fan base. If you guys really think that Tony Khan isn't trying to grow his wrestling business, I don't know what to tell you at this point. You have to stop defending ignorance. like there's a game plan. Tony Khan's flying in the dark. There is no structure. He has no plan. He's not trying to maintain a fan base. He just doesn't know what he's doing. And there's nobody in that company. There's nobody in AEW who has the balls to look a Jon Moxley in the eyes and tell him, no, you can't do that. Not on TV. You don't get to do that. The inmates don't run the asylum around here, but the problem is the inmates run the asylum in AEW. And the IWC keeps throwing the arguments they're making. They have these recycled just talking points they keep going to, and that is, well, Mick Foley, well, Terry Funk. These guys, they did the same thing. They're using these as distractions to try to get us off of the real conversation, which is, do you really want to make a history argument? There have been plenty of things that when we look back upon them in history, we go, oops, that was a bad fucking idea, right? I think most people would look back at Mick Foley and go, it wasn't worth what his body's gone through today. What for Terry Funk, it's not worth the pain he has to live in today for that slight bit of entertainment we might have got. But more importantly, let's talk about trying to compare Jon Moxley to a Mick Foley. Mick Foley, Terry Funk, those were sideshow characters, right? They were role players in the overall scheme for the WWE. They were never the lifeblood of the company that Jon Moxley is supposed to be. He's the avatar for AEW. He is the world champion. He is front facing, the face you see when you go on the website, you go, who's the champion? And you're telling me this is good for business? How? You're going to have a certain amount of people who tune out after this. So you literally killed off whatever little bit of casual fan base you had hanging around. Like, how is that good for business? And now what you're left with, AEW, and this, you made this, you lie in this bed now, you're left with an absolute cesspool of the darkest, smelliest corner of the IWC, and you have to reap what you sow, and you guys all get to go in there and fucking argue with each other. Have fun, guys, because nothing will ever be good enough. That's what you guys don't know for the IWC. Nothing will ever be good enough. All this did was just set the new bar for how stupid you have to be to get over with the IWC. And so now we get to play the game to see who steps up next, who raises the bar to the next disgusting height. I'll see your syringe in the mouth with nails impaled in my back. The IWC will never be satisfied. They have this hunger for what's next. This will be forgotten by next week, and Moxley will have to raise that bar to get the attention that he's looking for once again. The difference, though, the difference for me, I'm glad this happened. I think this defining moment, this line in the sand, I'm glad this happened because this lets me know I could be done with AEW. No more peeking behind the curtain to see what's going on. I don't need to check on MJF. If Britt Baker wants to stay part of that shit show, she can stay part of that shit show. But AEW's not, it's not wrestling for the average wrestling fan. It is a 100% niche product. Tony Khan needs to shut the fuck up and stop talking like you're Pepsi. Bitch, you're not Pepsi. You are some weird fucking lemon soda that nobody knows about that tastes like shit but goes good with alcohol. You're a shit show circus full of carnies. Like, that is what AEW is. You are the Temu ECW, and I'm glad now that we can identify all of these weird fucks who like this kind of shit. Like, we can see you guys. I'm glad I can identify all the weird dudes that have a mutilation fetish. If you're into that shit, more power to you, but we can't be friends. We're not gonna be friends. You guys could watch your weird indie show that has just an incompetent, spoiled brat of an owner who has a vagina where his balls are supposed to be. He can't say no to anybody. And I'll go watch my sports entertainment, as you guys like to call it, because I'm not a weird fuck, okay? I do find this sad. I find it sad because This is how Edge goes out. He literally goes out in this kind of indie, just desperation situation. It's sad to see the IWC can't wrap their brains around a failing company, a company that's on life support, a company that's screaming, just look at me, please. I'll do anything. Just look at me. Like, it is sad to see this level of desperation that because WWE has really kind of turned on the main event scene, they've turned the ovens up to 10, that AEW has panicked and they're now like the middle child throwing a tantrum and just screaming, look at me, mommy, look at me. I can bleed. I can put nails in my back. Like, this whole model you guys try to sell us. This is where the best wrestle. Gotcha. Keep repeating that shit to yourself. Look in the mirror and keep repeating that mantra till it makes you feel good. Because it's not. It's not where the best wrestle. It's only a matter of time, mark my words, before someone goes too far in AEW, and then there's no turning back, right? You don't get to predict how those nails react. Sure, it was a 4th inch this time. Next time it's an inch. The time after that's 2. The next time it hits a nerve. The next time it hits the spine. You don't get to decide what those nails do when you land on them, right? You can't predict what happens when you jump off a ladder onto a pane of glass. You could get lucky, but you can't predict what's going to happen. And you can't predict what happens when you coffin drop off the top rope onto the edge of steel stairs, right? Wrestling has risk. Don't get me wrong. I 100% understand that that's always been an appeal of professional wrestling, but it's supposed to be a calculated risk. And AEW's calculator is stuck in remedial mode. It's not working correctly. Your math ain't mathing, guys. There is a reason that ECW couldn't make it as a company, and it will be the same reason that AEW fails. It is this bunkered down, appease the weird kids mentality, hipster, we're so cool, we like edgy things, but that doesn't have the staying ability that you want to believe it does, because there's a small sub corner of the internet that likes this shit and is really loud about it does not mean that it's popular enough to sustain a company. And the IWC will continue to move that bar, and they will just hit you with, oh, that was cool, Mox, but what's next, right? The problem is WWE uses storytelling, and it uses theatric, and it uses smoke and mirrors, and things may look risky, but mostly they're calculated risk, right? And so they feed that hunger predominantly with a casual audience by giving them safe but fun storytelling moments. And the IWC's problem is they need that, like, it's like a drug addict, right? They just need more and more and more and more to get them to that next spot. And Mox, unfortunately, is a guy who is going to keep trying to do this weird shit to appease this savage, gross audience. Look back. It's no wonder why Brock Lesnar didn't want to listen to Mox when it came to the way they worked WrestleMania. Like, can you imagine that conversation? Mox walks up to Brock Lesnar and he's like, hey, here's what I want you to do. I want you to jam these fucking nails in my back. And Brock Lesnar was probably like, no, I'm weird. No, I'm good, you weird fuck. I'm good. And that's funny because Brock Lesnar sounds like he could be a pretty weird dude himself with some of the shit we've heard. So to out-weird the weird dude, that's wild to me. I'm not going to harp on this much more. After I've said my piece, that it kind of is what it is. But now I'm glad. The line in the sand has been drawn. We can identify the sick fucks. Y'all all go on your side of the room and just leave us alone. Let us have our sports entertainment, and you can have this weird mutilation kink and fetish that you have. But just know, as far as I'm concerned, everything else that you guys in the IWC say about WWE is immediately invalidated by this moment. All right, that leads me to Meltdown number 2 this week, which comes from another esteemed member of the IWC, and this one says the John Cena promo didn't come from a wrestler. it came from 100% within John Cena. That was real. He has been holding this in for decades. Everything he said was fact. We don't deserve new music or a new look. We are the problem. I don't even know what the fuck this means. When I read this, I didn't know what this means. And every pretentious asshole who thinks that they understood this John Cena promo on some meta subconscious level is completely full of shit, right? All of these IWC dipshits who think John Cena is shooting on the audience. Y'all are all complete fucking idiots. Like, the promo was fine. Don't get me wrong. I have no issue with the direction that they're taking John Cena. It wasn't what I wanted. It wasn't what I'd prefer, but it's all good, right? This idea that Cena's mad at the crowd because for 25 years we joked about him being invisible and we yelled John Cena sucks. Got it. That's the direction we're going, right? It's okay. We could book John Cena to be a pussy boy. That's fine. It came off as a very bitchy promo. That's fine as well. I think it's that way by design, though. I in no way think this is John Cena letting out some kind of deep-rooted anger on the WWE audience, right? This is the safest way to book John Cena to not, you still have to appease the shareholders. So we keep the music. Yeah, people like the music. We keep the merch. People will still keep buying the merch. It'll become a thing, right? We just have to lay into him being mad at the crowd. It works. I'm not mad at it. It's not my favorite. There's still some things that need to be explained, though, to me. How does any of this explain John Cena aligning with The Rock, right? He took orders from The Rock. That's going to have to be addressed before we get to WrestleMania. How does this all align with John Cena attacking Cody Rhodes? Being mad at the people is one thing, sure, I understand. Why are you pissed off at Cody Rhodes? It seems maybe you would try to pull Cody to the side and mentor him a little bit, but being angry at Cody for what you did and how you sold out, that needs to be it needs to be explained to me for me to fully get on board with kind of what's become a pretentious hipster heel turn. This is wrestling. It's not a Quentin Tarantino film. If I have to do all this investigating and look for sub-messaging with John Cena, I'm going to check out extremely quickly. I don't watch wrestling for the Bray Wyatt sub-level deep thinker shit, because that stuff didn't work. There's a reason that we're not seeing the Wyatt Six. There's a reason they pulled Alexa Bliss. It's because all this deep thinker shit, it appeals to a very small subculture of the internet wrestling community, but it doesn't work on the larger basis. We don't want to do puzzles. We don't want to dig into the psyche of John Cena's mind. You know what does work, though? Is what a Hulk Hogan did in NWO, coming out in the NWO shirt, coming out with a very different look. And I know that's generic, but that is what moves the casual audience. Now, I'm not saying John Cena can't get there, right? It's not a sprint. John Cena has the entire year to see how this plays out. But if this ends up being what I've read it could be, just a 2 to 3 month flash in the pan where Cena's angry at the crowd, then 3 months from now he has this makeup moment, it is going to feel like a little bit of bullshit. But like I said, this ultimately, to me, this kind of plays exactly into what I've been saying about Triple H for the last month or two, and that is that it's all safe. And let me explain. It all feels safe. It feels safe for Cody Rhodes, right? It feels safe for John Cena. It feels safe for WWE because nothing really changed. If you look at it, they got that crazy reaction that they wanted at Elimination Chamber. But nothing really changed, right? John Cena still got the t-shirts. He still got the music. He's still John Cena. There's still going to be John Cena fans. He may be a little bit of a bitch who's in his feelings right now, but apparently that is what WWE wants, and that is safe. Cody's going to be the good guy. Cody's going to be the hero. Cody doesn't have to worry about John Cena overshadowing him. That is safe. Like I said, I didn't hate this angle. It's an angle, right? And I'm all about being patient, and I'll let it play out. And in my initial reactions, I will tell you, were not great. I didn't love it. I think the crowd reacted great. I think that was the perfect overseas moment where they're just going to completely overreact. I think John Cena got unbelievable heat, which is what you want in this moment. But did they capitalize on it? That would be the question I ask, right? Like, I mean, John Cena heel merchandise would move. There's no question, right? New music would have had the internet going bananas this week. There's no question about that. Instead, it feels to me like this was the kind of, we could get the shock value moment, but we really don't want to lay in this because we really don't want to fully commit to John Cena being the heel at this point. It feels a lot like the Wyatt stuff, where, like I said, there's a subculture of the IWC that is telling everybody how nuanced this is, and this is like a deeper heel turn than we can understand, and that the casual fans are too stupid to understand it, and that John Cena is right about everything he said. Like, all right, we fucking get it, nerds. We get it. But at the end of the day, this is still scripted fighting in underwear, and I don't need Shakespeare. Like, I'll continue to pay attention, but I will admit I've lost a little bit of interest in this match heading into WrestleMania. I need to see what The Rock's role is in all of this. I need to see that they can keep cohesive messaging in the next 30 days. I need to see John Cena show up. I need them to flush out a story here because on one hand, I am the guy who keeps defending The Rock for admitting that he's playing a character when he goes on Twitter. But then on the other hand, now you're trying to sell me on this story that like the real life actions of the crowd have affected John Cena and caused him to turn against them. Right? There's a lot that needs, and I'm not saying they won't. I still have faith in Triple H that he can get me there. But my question now is really like, what is the end game? What is the way out? Because there always has to be a booking way out. This feels like a hard one to mend the fences on for John Cena, because if he doesn't fully commit, we will start to see through that shit very quickly. If he does fully commit, how do you get back to the light side? How do you get back to being babyface? Now, I know he can say all the bullshit he wants. I'm not a babyface. I'm not a heel. That's all great. That plays well with the IWC. But the reality is you're a bad guy, and now you have to do bad guy things. And if you do, if John Cena plays this in the kind of Gunther way and plays it safe, it's going to be bad. Now, John Cena is a guy who, if he lays into this, if he really commits and they let him go all the way, John Cena could be one of the greatest heels of all time. There is no doubt in my mind. And that's why I still hold a level of optimism in this story. I'm just saying that chapter 1, night 1, page 1 didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to. And I think there is a level of the IWC who has overreacted to this. I don't think there's a deeper meta story here. I think what this is, and if this is what this is, it will work perfectly. This is designed to create a superhero Cody Rhodes, once again, who Cody's best when he has insurmountable odds, right? Cody's best when he's chasing Roman Reigns. Now you ultimately find a way to have Cody Rhodes chase another legendary figure. And so I have a lot of questions. I reserve the right to touch on this at a later time as more information becomes available, but I think that the overreaction that there's some meta game going on here is just absolute bullshit. All right, IWC Meltdown number 3 this week. Rhea Ripley has to find another way into the title picture because signing a contract is not a fair way to get into the match. If AEW did this, WWE fans would tear them apart. The IWC uses this weird tactic where they try to tell casual fans, it's like a mind fuck. They try to tell us how we would respond to a situation in AEW when the situations in AEW aren't anything like we're referring to when we talk about storytelling in WWE. Here's the reality. We don't expect complete logical storytelling. We just expect it to make sense enough in the world of wrestling. And in the world of wrestling, when someone signs a contract, that's usually enough for us casual fans to go, okay, I guess she's in the match, right? It also doesn't hurt that most of us kind of were in on the idea that this was going to be a triple threat match, so it's not a huge shocker. The shit that AEW does, that we reference, that you're trying to reference, like if AEW did this, the shit that as casual fans we see in AEW and we roll our eyes at, it's not like white collar contract fraud, right? it's attempted murder. It's when guys inject a needle into another guy's mouth, or they set a guy on fire, or they put a stick full of nails in a guy's back. That's the stuff we roll our eyes at. And even then, we tend to do it in jest, like, if that's what you weird guys like, more power to you. This idea that the IWC tries to use when it comes to WWE, this idea that every story in wrestling needs to make logical sense, is insane. That's never been a trope of wrestling, right? It's wrestling. Like, there are matches that the loser has to shave their head. That doesn't make sense. It's just really fun to see, right? People get hung in shark cages above the ring. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but we enjoy it when it happens, right? There were two guys who fought over a $1.75 bracelet over the entire summer, and 90% of us said that was the feud of the year, right? Over the top things are what make wrestling fun. So when it comes to situations like a contract, we can look past it to a certain extent because it's fun. A lot of people don't like this Bianca Belair, Io Sky, Rhea Ripley storyline. I tend to kind of enjoy this. I think it's silly. I think it's fun. I am on the Wavy D train, where this is just kind of chapter 1, page 1 of what Bianca and Rhea will come down the line, right? But we've all been in situations that don't seem fair, where we felt like we were being screwed. And that's all this is. Like, Rhea Ripley broke the rules, and she's probably going to get away with it. That's happened in all of our lives at some point in time. And most of us just bitch and complain, and then we fucking take it, right? That's what's going to happen in this story. But if a motherfucker jabs me with a needle in my mouth, or sets me on fire, or hits me in the back with a bat full of needles, I'm killing his ass on the spot. That's the big difference that the IWC doesn't want to talk about when we talk about rolling our eyes at what's happening in AEW. The reality is, though, at this point, the argument is kind of futile, right? Most casual fans, and especially after what happened last night, we're not paying attention to what AEW does anymore. So this idea that the IWC argument is always, this is how the casual wrestling, or this is how the WWE fans would react if this happened in AEW. There's not really a subsection of the audience that's watching AEW anymore. It just, that audience doesn't exist. If you're arguing with WWE fans, it's more than likely that you've just found the other side of the IWC that weirdly worships WWE. That's not casual fans you're talking to if you're having these conversations where people are rolling their eyes. But I will promise you, the WWE IWC is the smallest of the small audience on the internet. And if you find yourself in conversation with those guys, you've traveled into some of the darkest corners of the wrestling web. The better conversation to be had right now is the conversation that I see within even our casual community, which is the conversation of, is there a need for Io Sky to be part of the title match? And I can genuinely say, I see the arguments on both sides. This is a fun argument because I could make the argument either way. I can see the We Too Deeps who are just 100% against the idea of needing Io in this match. I could see the arguments of the Wavy Ds who say it's not time, we need to be patient. Where I tend to fall on the issue is kind of, I want 100% down the road a full-on Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley match. I want a feud that lasts maybe the span of their entire careers. They're essentially a yin and yang. They're perfect. They complement each other so well. And while the selfish me would love to just rush into a match at WrestleMania, I do think that feud and that match needs context. They need to lay seeds to kind of get the necessary payoff down the road. Now, I hear what like We Too Deep says when he says, the problem is we never get that payoff. And I believe that's 100% right. I've made the argument a lot of times that like they laid the seeds for an Uso versus Uso match and then just completely shit the bed when we got there. There was a moment in time when that should have been done. We didn't do it. We let it marinate. It was supposed to get better. It just got soggy. It got chewy. It was gross, right? I do think there can be an argument to be made that Triple H has a little bit of ADD when it comes to booking, and he tends to wander off the path that he's laid because the crowd reacts a certain way And so that's a different argument. I'll have that argument. I'll have that conversation at some point. But when it comes to this match and this story, I still am a firm believer that we need to lay the seeds. We need to lay the seeds now so we can have the foundation for something legendary down the road. If Triple H ends up robbing us of whatever that is, then fuck him, right? That's bad booking, and we can all then have that conversation. But I still think the foundation is necessary if we just even want there to be an opportunity for this to be as big as it could be. But here's the reality. I've come around even more on this match for other reasons, and that's because if you watch right now the product, Io Sky is genuinely over. She's over with the overseas crowd. She's over with the American crowd. She's over with the smart crowd. She's over with the casual crowd. She's just genuinely over. And I'm not sure I fully understand where that tipping point was, but I talk to people all the time. This is what I do. I have conversations with fans all the time, and the overwhelming consensus is they like Io Sky, and it's for the same reason they like Jey Uso. There's just something appealing to the certain fan base that likes her. It's like the Yeet movement, it's like the Yes movement, it's like the Cody Crybabies. There's just a swell going on right now. It's an Io movement that's kind of bubbling up, and I think we're in the beginning stages, and a lot of casual and IWC, like I said, smart fans and every kind of walk of life have kind of come together to embrace her. So I do believe that she deserves to have her moment at WrestleMania. She deserves to be a part of this match, and it can be a foundation that lays seeds for something down the road. But this is interesting because this leads me without break immediately into my fourth meltdown this week, because this was sent directly to me in response to me saying that I'm not a huge fan of Io Sky. And it says, the reason so many wrestling fans like you don't like Io Sky is because you are racist or you are sexist. Imagine hating someone because they don't talk like you or look like you. If you don't like Io Sky, stop watching WWE. We don't want you. Who the fuck is we? I don't know who the fuck we is, because I have plenty of friends who watch wrestling who are okay with the fact that I don't like Io Sky. And I'd like to know who the fuck made this person the sheriff of the WWE community, because the last time I checked, I'm the goddamn voice of reason around here, and I don't need some IWC numbskull running around and saying wild shit like this. These are dangerous accusations to throw around. Can we just stop? Can we stop with the racist and sexist arguments in 2025? Just because someone doesn't like something that is a different skin color or is a different sex than you or whatever you like, or because somebody dislikes something that you enjoy, it doesn't mean that they have malicious intent. I don't love Io Sky. I'm not racist. I don't love that I can't understand her promos. I'm not sexist. I don't like that her entire promo on Monday Night Raw, and this is going to get taken out of context, but I don't like that her whole promo on Monday Night Raw was, you disrespect me, I'm champion. And the crowd spit. Like the crowd popped like she was spitting bars. And I'm still not racist for having this opinion. It's just not what I like. It's not the flavor of ice cream I prefer to eat. It's not lost on me. The difficulty that it has to be to cut a promo in a language that you don't speak. That's not lost on me. I understand that 100%. But it shouldn't be lost on people like you that a large portion of the pro wrestling fan base speaks primarily English. And it shouldn't be lost in you that most people don't watch movies with subtitles. There is a group that do, but the bulk of people don't. I don't like to watch movies in other languages. I walked out of the movie Pan's Labyrinth in 2006 because they weren't speaking English, and I haven't watched a movie not in English since that movie. Guess what? Still not a fucking racist. We are allowed to like and dislike what we want. If you dislike Io Sky because she's Japanese, yeah, you're probably a racist. If you dislike Io Sky because she's a woman, you're probably a sexist. But this idea that WWE needs groupthink and that there has to be a consensus on who we can like and what we can like, that is just completely asinine. Like, I don't connect with Io Sky. I see the comments that tell me she has this amazing heart for wrestling. I don't see it. I don't connect with it, right? It's her incredible ability to sell. I don't see it. I don't connect with it. It's her high-flying ability. Like I said, I don't see it. And that's fine. I'm not complaining. I'm not the one mad that she is where she is. I just spent the last 10 minutes explaining why we should accept where Io is, because she's gotten over with a large group of the fan base. But you guys, you just are upset anytime somebody doesn't like what you like. I'm okay. I'm okay not connecting with Io Sky, right? I'll continue cheering for Bianca Belair. You're going to need somebody to cheer against when we get to WrestleMania, right? I'll continue connecting with CM Punk, Kevin Owens. Those are the people that I connect with in wrestling, that I feel a fandom for. The only other real big issue that I have with this comment is that when I went to your page and I scrolled back through some of your other posts, like, you find real disturbing, dumbass shit, and you go, oh, okay, you're just a fucking hypocrite, right? Like, you had a post, and this is quote word for word. It says, oh, the things I would do to Io Sky. Like, that's a little bit rapey, bro. That's not how normal people talk. So I'd be careful calling people racist and sexist when that treads very heavy into objectification, right? It borders a little bit on obsession, brother. Like, you might just want to check those feelings and understand that words have meaning. And when you throw out the word racist or sexist, those are very accusatory, and it's stupid, right? It just kind of feels like, to me, you're the kind of guy that Asuka is talking about when she has to go on Twitter and talk about all these horn dogs on the internet who can't put their little IWC weenies back in their pants, and they fucking harass these women online. That's what you feel like. But I'm not attacking you. I'm just responding, right? I'm just saying, hey, pot, meet the black kettle, right? That's all this is. Maybe go try to find a real partner. Maybe don't fantasize about Io Sky. Maybe don't get on the internet and out of context call someone a racist or call someone a sexist, right? Like, you IWC guys, you got to be consistent. You just got to be consistent with your energy. We can objectively choose who we like and who we dislike in wrestling without being in like some deeper level of motivation. It always doesn't have to pull back to racism or sexism or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be. All right, time for the last meltdown of this week. This meltdown is, why is everyone so down on Gunther and Jey Uso? This is the biggest match on the WrestleMania card and should main event night one. I don't understand all the hate that these two get. The Yeet movement is the biggest thing in pro wrestling right now. Look, no arguments here. The Yeet movement is big. It still has some legs. It's still fun to do. The issue is that in order for it to survive long term, it's got to sprout roots. It has to be defined in something deeper than just a crowd swell. And Triple H really isn't giving us that. He's giving us, with Jey Uso and Gunther, the most generic David and Goliath story that we've seen in WWE in a very long time. And I'm a Jey Uso guy, and there's so much potential there for Jey Uso. I truly still believe that. But I'm going to say something that right now is going to sound like a crazy person statement, but years down the road, I think may be looked at as more of a fond statement. And that is, I think the Yeet movement is going to be looked at as maybe the best and worst thing that ever happened to Jey Uso, right? Because before the Yeet movement started, Jey Uso was starting to flush out his character. He was having to figure out who he was, right? He had to cut promos. He had to talk. He had to kind of bring the character all together. He was finding a voice. He was still kind of crafting a moveset. Then all of a sudden, he says the word yeet. This yeet movement just takes over, and it's like Triple H saw a gold mine, and Triple H just said, hey, we are going to package Jey Uso for the 6 to 12-year-old audience, and we are going to pause all development on his character, and let's just milk this cow for every drop that it has. And then all of a sudden, Jey Uso's now just a jumbled mess of noises. Every Jey Uso promo, it doesn't have substance. It doesn't have words. There's no heartfelt emotion. We can't get behind the man because every promo is yeet, yeah, what? It's like, what the fuck did he just say? What were those? Yeah, stand on business, 10 toes down, what? It's like, what? I don't fucking understand this. He's speaking like the fucking kids speak, and that's fine. But I feel like there was something there. It also doesn't help, Jay. I'm going to go on record. It doesn't help. It doesn't do much for your cause when you go out there and you botch a top rope dive like Top Dollar. Like, you got to nail those. This is your moment. This is your big opportunity. I'm not saying shit doesn't happen, but like in your moment, you got to make sure you're flawless. Don't give people shit to talk about. When you hit those spears in the ring, I understand you're trying to be safe, but you can't look like a wet noodle, Jey Uso. You really got to, you either hit the spear or let's find a different finishing move, right? But the problem for me is that overall, I see the major cracks right now in the Jey Uso Foundation. And let me go on record. Once again, I don't want to state this enough. I am a fan of Jey Uso. I think he's fun. I think his optics are great. I just fear that this will be a blip on the WWE radar. And once this settles down a bit, that the crowds are going to get tired. And then the question will be asked, can he evolve? Because already the internet wrestling community is starting to turn on Jey Uso. I'm seeing the memes. I'm seeing the post where they go, entrance, 17 minutes long. Wrestling match, 1 minute long. 2 botches. Celebration, another 20 minutes long. So I'm seeing this kind of assassination of character that's beginning to happen. And so the question is, can Jey Uso evolve? I said this last week, right? This build to Gunther and Jey Uso got extremely stale extremely quick. Now, it didn't have to. This is just when you go the David versus Goliath route, your Goliath better be savage, right? Better be a great heel. And Gunther's just not bad enough. He's just not villain enough to make Jey Uso feel like the vulnerable David. So we're being sold that like Jey Uso, who's had hell of accomplishments in his career, we're being sold that it's insurmountable for him to beat Gunther, even though we've watched Gable beat Gunther. We've watched Sami Zayn beat Gunther. We've watched people beat Gunther or have at least solid matches with Gunther. So this, you can't sell me on this story. I will go on record as continue saying Gunther immediately after this match, if he loses, he needs a babyface turn. He's not a heel. He needs to really just be kind of an elite wrestler who sticks to his business. I know that they've kind of always wanted Gunther to feel, I think, like a Rusev, except that Gunther doesn't have that 6th gear he could put it in to really go like full on heel. He could benefit from just a little bit of like a lesson from MJF on how to take cheap shots and promos that effectively get the crowd excited. But here's the reality. This is what I'd say. I don't think Triple H ever had any intention for this match to be a main event. When people are talking about 20-minute entrance, 1-minute match, 20-minute celebration, I think you're just now catching on to the formula that Triple H knows is tried and true. A Jey Uso match is just a party. It's just an optic. It's a visual moment. 80,000 people yeeting. The Vegas clubs all playing Jey Uso's theme song. It will be great. The problem is, what then? Like, wrestling keeps moving. There will be a Monday Night Raw and they will celebrate and they will yeet with him. But what happens a month down the road? What happens 2 months down the road? What happens 3 months down the road when the crowd gets tired of the same old gimmick? The Yeet will exist forever, but the problem is there has to be substance to carry him, because when you're champion, it is a very different situation than when you're chasing. And that, to me, can expose a lot of the cracks in the foundation. I don't think with Jey Uso that, the original post was, what's with all the hate? I don't think you're seeing hate. I think you're just starting to see a realization from some of the fan base that this is a fun moment, but what is the evolution of Jey Uso? With Gunther, I can make the argument it's hate, because I would make the argument that Gunther has underperformed ever since losing the Intercontinental Championship. I will 100% believe there is a level of hate. But this was never meant to WrestleMania, like main event WrestleMania. So you can lower your expectations. I'm glad. I'm happy this is your favorite part of wrestling. Like I said, I think that's what makes wrestling fun, is when you lock onto something. Like I'm all in on Bianca Belair, Io Sky, and Rhea Ripley. Although I know most people aren't. I'm glad that you've locked onto this. I think where it gets messy is when you take what you like and you elevate it to like an unrealistic expectation. This is going to be a good match. This is going to be a match. It's going to have a hell of an entrance. It's going to have a hell of a celebration, but it's not going to, I just can't see it main eventing one. I could be wrong. Maybe it main events night one. And maybe for the first time in a long time, Roman Reigns is just in the middle of the card. I really don't see that being a possibility. But that's all I got for you guys tonight. That's it for this week's Meltdowns. Make sure to join me in the battle to take on the IWC, because they will come for us in the comments. The CWC faction is stronger when we stand together. Make sure to tag me in all wild IWC takes. Post them in the Discord. You can tag me on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want, wherever you find them, so that we can unleash casual hell on these guys together. Like, subscribe, and share this video with any potential casual wrestling friends. A little bit of an update on the CWC hot take portion of this show. I'm going to reserve those from now on and do an immediate reaction to Monday Night Raw, NXT, and Friday Night SmackDown. So I still want you guys to drop those hot takes, but I'm going to, like, Monday night, I'll record something responding immediately to those hot takes. Wednesday night or Tuesday night, I'll record something for the NXT takes. And then Friday night, especially tomorrow night, drop your hot takes and I'll respond to them immediately. And that's where we'll do that portion of the show. But as always, I'm the Notorious Dirty D, and I will talk to you guys next week.
Head down, we're ready to